When I started in the fair, actually, it was the year we were married. We was married in June, and I decided that I wanted to try some of my, what I want to say, education to see if I could actually win some prizes. And of course, Mother egged me on, but I first really started in clothing, entering some of that, and then in dress reviews, because I made a complete outfit for my husband, myself, and my son, because we only had the one at that time. And actually, I would go to the fair and I'd say, oh, I could do that, I could do that. So I entered there, and then I did cookies, because Mother didn't do cookies. And I did nut breads, because she didn't do nut breads, and there was a reason for this. I didn't want to be in competition with her. And yet, actually, she did yeast breads, and so she did cakes, and she did actually pies. And she said to me one day, she said, now, you've entered enough years without entering cakes and pies. I want you to enter pies and cakes. I don't want you to feel that we're in competition. We're going to be really proud of each other, whether we win first, second, third, fourth, or sweepstakes. I just want you to follow in my footsteps and carry on that tradition and legacy.
Great. So you were doing all these other projects, you sew.
Mother enticed us to cook at home. Baking was more of an issue than actually more on clothing and that aspect of it. Once I started making pies and winning on them, it was one of those things that I didn't want to not enter. I didn't always win first. I didn't always win, the grand prizes or anything. Pies are something that everyone enjoys eating. And when you make a lot of the pies at home and share them with other people, they just say, oh, there comes the pie lady with all of her things to the state fair. We enter every pie in every category, which is anywhere between 22 and 23 pies. And you learn every year something different. Several of my recipes were handed down by my mother. She had already been baking some of those. She knew what was good and what wasn't, and so she would give me those recipes to use. I think the pie crust recipe is one of our secrets, and that's made from lard. I'm a lard person rather than Crisco. One of the other secrets that we've learned, of course, for the fair, it's always hard. You have to bake them in an aluminum pie pan. And those are one of the hardest pie pans to bake in to get the bottom of the crust done. So what we learned from experience was you take the aluminum pie pan and you take an ice pick with a piece of wood underneath it, and you just push holes every so often. If you punch the holes in that pie pan, that lets you get the bottom of your crust done. When I'm baking for home, I'll use Pyrex just because it's easier. When I run out of my Pyrex pie pans, then I use the aluminum pie pans too. I do bake my pies on the bottom shelf of your oven, because if you don't, then your bottom crust will not get done. I also have learned in the last few years, even from other people, from where I hear them talking, if you will put a cookie sheet underneath the pie, that also helps to make sure that your bottom of your pie is completely baked, because that's one of the first things they look for at the fair. They'll cut the pie, turn the pie over, and if the bottom of your crust has sog to it, they might as well put it aside, because they won't go ahead and judge it. In my pie crust, when you read it, you'll find that it takes the flour, it takes the salt, it takes the shortening or the lard, and then I use 1/3 cup of cold water, an egg, which gives it the golden color, and a tablespoon of vinegar, which will make it flaky. And that's one of our secrets on pie crust. I probably don't use any other one, except when we were in the Pillsbury pie contest. You had to use the Pillsbury ready-made crust. And if people love to bake pies, and they don't want to go to the trouble of making their own crust, they can use the Pillsbury pie crust. That's fine. I mean, it works just as well. I'll do that at home.
You talked a little bit about Darl helping out. How did he get involved? Was he interested from day one, or did you kind of?
He likes to cook, I'll put it that way. He is a blessing because he's learned how to do my crisscross tops, and he does them probably a little slower than I did because he's more of a particular person. But I think he just wanted to help because we love to do things together. We love to go places together. And since we've been married for 55 years, you know, you learn what each person likes and what the other one doesn't. But I didn't have to really just bag him. He just kind of helped out. He's my dishwasher too. He was always out there washing the dishes for me. I taught foods in home ec, and actually we would have demonstration day. I showed him how to do pies, and this I think you'll find interesting when I put on Facebook that I was going to be interviewed and what it was all about, etc. I had high school students that I had not heard from for some time, and they wrote me back and said, I remember what you taught us in high school, and I still use some of the knowledge that you have taught for me. The one thing I do a lot of now is helping 4-Hers. In fact, I just had my niece to contact me the other day, and she has to bake a loaf cake for 4-H. And she said, we need a good recipe. And I said, I can help you out, and I'll give you some little tips on that. And then I had a neighbor over here that when they were in 4-H, shared my pie recipes that they would use for 4-H. And actually, they would call me up because, like you said, I was known as the pie person.
Tell us about the ribbons. Tell us about
They
the
asked me
ribbons.
the same thing at the View. They said, oh, we want you to have ribbons with you. And I said, all of them? Yes. And I said, ma'am, I said, I win probably 50 ribbons every year, either a first, second, third, fourth, honorable mention, sweepstakes, and it would take a suitcase to bring all of my ribbons there because with us entering, we enter 35 items under my name and 35 items under my husband's name. And we're very fortunate to say that, you know, we do win. I tried to decide what would I do with all these ribbons. Right now they're in a suitcase and in boxes. I don't know whether I could ever get anybody to help me make a quilt, 2 quilts, 3 quilts, something I could give the kids too. The ribbons, they mean something to you, and you do want to win because you've got a big expense out preparing. You take the whole cake, you take the whole pie. You only take 6 cookies and 6 biscuits and the whole nut bread. So your money is tied up in all of those. So you hope every year that you win something on that. So placings, I think, goes $10, $8, I may be wrong on this, $7 and $6. I need to look in the book, but you do win for the first 4. And used to with sweepstakes, when Mother and I would win on the pies, they would also pay you $25 for sweepstakes, but they don't do that anymore. I would encourage anyone and everyone to try once in a while to enter at the Indiana State Fair, because we that are older or those that have passed away, they need younger ones to do this. And even if they're in 4-H, they can enter at the Indiana State Fair Family Arts Building as long as they pay for their tickets, you know, to do that, and they can enter up to 35 items. Home economics in the high school today is not like when I was teaching. They don't get the basic information of, you know, making, baking, and the basic of sewing and child development. And I think it's great if they'll let their kids be in the kitchen. If they make a mess, so what? That's fine, you know, and teach them anything that they can as far as cooking is concerned.